I want to thank you all for being here today. We may get a few other people coming in there, but this is the second of the forums that we've had this year. We do plan to have a follow-up on this, but it probably won't be until we come back in the fall, so that we have the greatest amount of participation. But what I want to do, first of all, is introduce some ground rules. First of all, we want to consider all ideas, and as an idea is introduced, we're going to put it up like this. We'd like to have any follow-up that you might have about the question, and we'll add it on there just so that we have clarity in terms of what is being asked. After this process, the Executive Council will be meeting and working up a plan, to respond to each of these areas. And then, if time allows, we'll take additional ideas that you might have. And again, the purpose of getting this information out to you early is to give you some real time to think of, some ways that the college can save money. We are negotiating, so some of these things kind of blend into negotiations, so we'll just present it because it was presented, and we'll go from there. So, are there any questions? We have Jan Magno and we have Kathy Berry over here on this side. They have mics here, so if you have a follow-up to any of these, please raise your hand and they'll come over to you, okay? Thank you. So the first one is go paperless at all meetings. Many of you know that the Board of Trustees has been moving. I think we're going to be moving completely paperless, so that all the agendas, they're online, and so they act them like that. So that's a form of paperless. So this is about going paperless with all meetings. Any follow-up to that? Okay. Now let's go on to this. Oh, we do. Oh, we do. Eldon. The red button.
I would just say, put things down on paper and share them. Put your ideas down on paper and share it with everybody, and have less meetings.
So circulate.
Do a cloud meeting, so to speak.
Okay. On paper or on the computer?
Or, you have to get it down, you have to submit that to everybody, and then you get their ideas, get their feedback, and rather than having everybody meet, have to take time away from their job, guys, their calls. There's a lot of wasted time, I think, spent in meetings.
And so you're really talking about virtual. So you send the idea, send it out to a variety of people, get feedback that way, kind of in a chain link.
Or a virtual meeting than a
Virtual
physical meeting.
Than a physical meeting. Okay, good. Any others on that particular topic? Okay, next. Promote two-side copies when possible. That's pretty self-explanatory. Some do it more as a routine than others, but perhaps we could, just encourage people to continue using two-sided when they're just working on that. Mike?
If it's a big job, I usually call them and ask them if it really needs to be two-sided, one-sided. But most of the time, people are already automatically doing that, so that's not really a big issue as far as reprographics anyway.
So from the reprographic standpoint, it looks like we have begun
It's already
moving
been
in that
adopted.
direction. People are thinking, two-sided copies rather than individual papers when you're doing that. Yes, Lisa.
This works. The only difficulty I've got is that the printers in our offices and the bigger printers in our division offices default to one-sided prints when you're printing items or copying items. And so is there some way we can change the default so we don't have to do it every single time we print something that has more than one page?
Great. And just a reminder, we're really not going to try to answer, but document this so that we can formulate responses going forward. So good. Matthew?
This question actually goes back to Mike. It might help us all if we knew exactly how much money we spend annually on copies. And I think he knows.
Good.
Can you tell us how much we spend annually?
I'm still trying to get a good figure because now we have new copiers, so I don't know what our contracts and everything else work out to, but I know We
We'll
buy, I know we buy 900 cases of white copy paper every year, and that works out to about 4.5 million sheets of paper. And
We'll
then
try
I
to get
estimated
some-
on top of that, the color paper, which is another 1 million to 2 million sheets of paper. So I know on every year, we probably run about 5 to 6 million copies.
Okay, what we'll try to do again is a response to that, just, so that we have an idea. How much money is spent on copies, okay. Anything else on two-sided copy? All right. The next one is reinforce energy saving on office restrooms, classrooms, offices, computers. If we had time, I'd tell you a couple of stories, because we've tried some of those things. We used to have these clappers. Some of you who have been here long enough, we introduced a clapper switch where the noise actually turns on the light, and no noise, the light turns off. Even if you're in there, if you're extremely quiet, it goes off on you. I have a funny story I'll tell you, come by and see me about that. But any follow-up on that? So that's just being aware of conserving energy through switching off the lights. Did that. Is that right? The next one, training for budget managers. I think what that means, those who are in charge of areas, departments, they have budgets of their own. And you should be able to look at not only ongoing activity within the budget, but also monthly kind of activity, kind of like you do when you get your statement from your checkbook. You can kind of reconcile it. And also maybe perhaps mid-year kind of see where you are within the budget so you can better estimate as to whether you under-budgeted, over-budgeted. If you under-budgeted, there's probably not much we can do, but if you over-budgeted, again, that's ways that we can kind of mitigate some costs and identify them early on. So I think in this particular case, training is just, is valuable so that everybody understands their responsibility in terms of not only the development of the budget, but monitoring it and keeping it on check. Okay. Any other follow-up to that one? Okay. Well, maybe we'll have time for questions. I that's last words. Okay. The next one is institute a 5% cut across the board. Again, this is a negotiated item, but actually I did receive more than one of those specific questions, or actually items of information to us to share with you. And I think and that's all it pretty much said, it's just 5% across the country, and that would be in pay as opposed to anything else, and to see what that would look like in terms of where our budget would be, for 12-13. So we'll respond to that, or we'll put that in negotiations. What is the savings? What would that mean? And again, it would be important to look at savings as it refers to the staffing that is expected beginning the 12-13 year, rather than looking back in the previously budgeted positions and using that. So we have to use the appropriate staffing and then apply the 5% cut that way and see what that would do to us. Any other follow-up on that one? Okay. Next, eliminate the student employment, the district portion, in order to save a few positions. Okay. For those who may not know, we have two forms of student employment here on campus. One form is the use of work study. That is actually not specifically money from it's money from the federal government that's awarded to students. They work both on and off campus. The other form, when they say student employment, is being referred to as 100% district paid employment, or project paid employment of students. There are parameters, like there's a limitation, number of hours. There is a rate of pay that is generally less than that of a regular employee. And it's all governed by federal, state law, and governed our board policy as well. So, any follow-up on that one? Yes, Mike?
Don't talk, you don't have a mic.
I'm
Yeah.
fine, I'm fine.
No, you're
Just
not.
a quick, maybe this is more directed to Jan. Do we know with all the financial aid changes, is there any possibility that they totally might cut student aid anyway?
No. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? No, in
Because
fact,
I know,
our-
just having student employees in my office, I know sometimes they run out of funds and we're, you know,
our work study allocation has been the same for as long as I was director of financial aid, or senior financial aid. It's $385,000, $385,312. We've been getting that every year. I think what this is referring to is for those of you who have campus work study, not student employment, because they took the student employment dollars out a long time ago. The campus work study, the federal government pays 65%, the campus pays 35%. Right now, that amounts to about anywhere between $85,000 and $100,000, because the majority of our work study is placed on campus, not in the community.
Good. Anything else on that one? Okay. Next. All right, raise revenue by expanding product advertisement on campus. For example, we have a contract with Pepsi. So we're talking about utilizing ads, advertisement here on campus. Any follow-up to that? Yes, Eric?
advertising on websites.
Advertising on websites. Sell ads on websites. Anybody else? Yes, Monica.
Advertising on marquee.
Advertising,
on marquee.
sell marquee space.
Yes.
Okay, advertising on marquee. Good. Question, Alvin? You have a
So I
question?
had the same thing as Eric said
Oh.
about the web-based advertising. I would try to keep it local because I think there's litigations going on about that on campuses. And it works a lot easier with athletics. I found that seems to be done a lot easier without too much discussion or extension.
Also, you know, the appropriateness of advertisement at colleges that do this more routinely, they generally have a body that flows through for approval. There has to be approval because there are some specific policies that need to be adhered. So, any other follow-up on that one? Good. All right. Okay, reimburse travel expenses based on receipts, not per diem. That by itself could actually cost more money if you're not careful. In that, right now, I think what is intended here is with a cap, so that not to exceed perhaps what we pay. I think we pay $35, a lot of times, $35 a day, and that includes breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's paid if you're out on travel from a certain time in the morning and you get back at a certain time in the evening, then you're eligible for the full day, and it's broken up by a certain amount for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The total is $35. What this is, and some colleges do have that, reimbursement only by receipt, and that should not exceed the maximum $35 that's paid out. That might save some money, so we'll put that way. If you don't put a cap, it could cost more, especially if you go to San Francisco or Mortons of Chicago. Okay, bring back plays, musical dramas in room 2131 and charge increased admission. Students need more exposure to cultural performances. Yeah. Some of you may remember we used to have plays here on campus, and I think there was some at Calexico Rodney Auditorium and in Brawley and Palmer Auditorium. So revenue-raising ideas by offering these kinds of activities and bringing in the off-campus community to that. Any follow-up?
I have one. Can you hear me now? I taught one summer at, I taught one summer at Cal State San Bernardino, and they had plays and music on the quad. We have a beautiful amphitheater out here that in the springtime, or in the fall would be a really nice place, and you would bring your lawn chairs, but they charged admission. And that all went to help the fine arts programs and music. And I've always thought that would be a really pretty place for people to come in and hear our students. I like this thing. I'd go.
I'd
I'd
go
make
too.
tickets.
Okay, any other follow-up on that one? Okay. Eldon, you have one?
In this new building, we also have an IMAX theater.
Yes, we do.
Could be used in the summertime, nice
Yes.
and cool. We got new bus lines coming here.
Good ideas. IMAX Theater. Next, parking. I'm putting this up there, but I think there, and we will respond to it formally, but increased parking fees on campus, increased penalties for parking tickets established. The first two, A and B, those particular items are legislative. There's very strict regulations in terms of the amount of money that we can charge students, and two, that money cannot be used for anything else other than the parking. And that's very, very specific in Ed Code. So that's on appropriate fees that are charged in the Ed Code. The other one, established preferred parking at an increased rate. I'm not sure for the students if that would be non-allowable cost or an allowable cost, but I was thinking more like staff. If staff wanted to have a preferred parking, there could be a $500 a year preferred parking really close, $100 parking dollars a year, something a little further, and the 50-cent one on the other side. So yes, we'll look at that as well. Any other follow-up on that?
You'd be riding your bike.
And that's what I will, yeah, Frank says that that's what I will be remembered for.
Okay,
Yeah. Eldon,
okay.
Daniel.
Should I just yell?
You know what, I got mine to work.
All right, I'll
Here
start.
comes bad effect.
All right, this one works. Where I was at grad school, they did something like that. We didn't say it was like, staff pays one fee or students pay another fee. It was basically, there were 3 parking areas, lot A, C, and Z. And A was about 500 or so a month, or 500 or so a year, my bad.
Platinum parking.
C was about 150, 160 a year, and Z
Silver.
was about 15 to 30 a year. But that was 2005 prices in the Bay Area. So, something like that can work, but it needs to be scaled appropriately.
We'll look at that. Sure. Thank you. Eldon has a follow-up. I was told we have to press that red button real hard.
I don't know about preferred parking, but I know in the summertime, people might be willing to pay for shaded parking.
That's $1,000 a season. That's $1,000 a summer. All right. Anything else on the parking? Great. Next, encourage IDC employees to register for classes. That just came that way. We can't give them a break, but we can encourage them to go. So we'll look at that, respond. Any follow-up on that? Or maybe clarification if somebody wants to be brave enough to? Yes, Albert.
Might want to survey employees, see what kind of classes they would be willing to take or want to take.
Like enrollment management for employees.
Bird watching.
Bird watching. Cool. Let's go on. Okay. We're getting there. All right, here's another one that that also has some Ed Code regulations behind it. Increase fees for students who change their schedule after the add drop period is over We can also limit the conditions where students can get refunds. I think both of those areas are legislated, but again, we'll formally respond to that. But there is Ed Code. In the old days before Ed Code, we were allowed to charge registration fees and drop fees, and a lot of those things were, when Title V was changed, were addressed in terms of allowable costs that you can charge, and this is one of them. So we'll respond. Any follow-up to that? All right. This is another one that's not allowable. Charge students $100 to repeat class. If I could, I'd charge them $1,000 to repeat class, but you know, we raise it. But actually, the new policy for repeat has really helped keep that down, because if you don't know, there used to not really be a limit to the number of times a student can repeat a class for a substandard rate or even withdrawing from classes. That has changed over the last couple of years, and it's very restrictive, and it has really helped, I think, increase the access to those students who are taking it for the first time. So I think that has worked itself out that way. Same with this one, charge a fee for late registration, $50 to $100. Again, that's under the Ed Code in terms of allowable fees we can charge students. Okay, here's one. Build a cell tower on campus and generate revenues, like Verizon, that kind of stuff. Any follow-up on that? Yes?
I wouldn't do it. They actually have regulations about how far cell towers can be from a lot of human
Got it.
activity because of the waves and others.
Okay, we'll research that and get those kind of things going. Thank you. Put down regulations. I guess that would be FCC or something like that. Regulations. Okay, add activity fees for using the college weight room, tennis court, pool, and track. There are some, for students who are registered in the course, there are some allowable activity fees that are in there and they're prescribed. But I don't know if the intent of this question was also perhaps for periods of time when the facilities are not being used by a class, if you could advertise those periods of time and charge a membership fee or a use fee for either staff or students or whatever to use that facility like a gym during those non-classroom times. So that's come up a few times, so we'll look at that as well. We have a wellness program that starts, so this kind of fits into that. I think there's a committee that's looking at it. The wellness committee is looking at that. Any follow-up to that? Okay, great. 17. Raise admission fee to athletic contests, so like games, charge more fees for them. Any follow-up on that?
We have a follow-up.
Yes, we do. Okay.
The audience is alive.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
sorry, I'm running a little behind here. Do we have a consistent fee policy on athletic events? And because I know there's some, say for basketball, but I don't know that we actually charge admission fees, say to softball games that are on campus and such. So I think maybe also looking at our overall fee policy as well as a possible increase.
With regards to all sports, we do charge fees. Again, we'll get back to you on that other one. But I do believe that faculty and staff do get in free. Under that is the current policy with that. But we'll follow up on that. Any other follow-up on that one? Okay, great. Restructure food services on campus. Exclusive contract with one food provider raises the cost of food and drinks served at meetings and receptions. And then staff realizes that shopping at Costco saves the college money. When I read this, and I don't know if this was the intent, it's just the way I received it. Many of you remember we've had food service contracts with other vendors in the past. Aramark was the last one I remember. And in their contract, they had first right of refusal, so any any food served on the campus had to be given to them. So they were free to charge whatever, and they did. The current provider does not have that exclusive right in the contract, and therefore if you have an event or something, you are automatically now free to go to Costco or anywhere else. That wasn't always the case. So I don't know if that was the question, but if anybody has a follow-up on that, we'll take that. Yes, please.
Thank you. At many of the community colleges, they have like community McDonald's and Pizza Hut. I don't know, are we just too small for that here, or is it out of interest? It seems like they have students have several choices. There's a small Taco Bell, San Diego City College, for instance.
Yeah, there are a number of colleges, usually they're larger, and they do have various fast food menus as well as a kind of a home cooked kind of menu as well. Yes, so we'll respond to that because we have looked at that in the future in terms of building because you need the space and the facilities for that as well. Any other follow-up on that? Okay. Assess the feasibility of fees for service, math, English, reading, and writing labs. So that's, again, I think we will respond to this, but I do believe that this is also part of the Ed Code when it comes to allowable costs, that you may charge a fee. And there's also some very prescriptive language in terms of that the disposable value of what you get from that. So there's very, very restricted language, so we'll respond according to that. If that is the question, there's something else that's intended, now would be the time to say. Or if you have any follow-up on this one. Okay. Increase the charges for making student copies. This didn't come from the students, did it? Increase student charges for making student copies. Any follow-up on that? Require student orientation and establish a fee for orientation. I wanted to address this a little bit. This kind of really falls somewhat into the Student Success Task Force. One of the things that they're looking in terms of student success is the research shows that students who go through an orientation are assessed and have counseling advising prior to enrolling actually do better. Their persistence, retention, and their overall grade point average generally is better, and their completion rates are better. So this is something that the legislature is carefully looking at it. With the matriculation, Jan could explain more about that. There has always been some limitation about forcing students to do that. But the dialogue is going into incentivizing students who do this by giving them higher priorities. And so these are the kinds of things that are coming out of that task force report that really will, I think, address some of these issues. Now the fee for the orientation, again, we'll get back to you on that. Years ago, we used to have orientations that was in the form of a class, so there was a fee for it. But the problem is that unless you tie it to some kind of priority, it was very hard to mandate it. So if there is something that says our enrollment was much lower than we'd hoped, so charging a fee would only make it harder to do that. But again, we'll try to get that. If there's a follow-up on that, now's the time. Okay. Yes, Eldon.
I'm totally against any kind of fees or charging students anything else to come here, but I'm all for helping them succeed. And I'm hoping that the student task force will pay particular attention to our returning veterans, both male and female. I think we need to offer some non-traditional classes for women, for trade, because a lot of them coming back from the war zone, they're not interested in becoming secretaries.
Got it. Non-traditional careers. Awesome. Thank you. Any other follow-up on this? Steve?
Didn't we already have something like that, a class that, like when I came here, when I first came to school here 20-something years ago, there was some class that my counselor had me take, and it was a liberal studies something.
Yeah, there is
He said it was
a,
almost required, and it did help me a lot, but I mean,
there is a class, and we still offer it. It's Counseling 101 now. It used to be different names. But that's personal career development.
exactly.
It is degree applicable and transferable, so that particular class was helpful in terms of guiding the student in terms of career path and choices. That's a little different than orientation. Orientation really refers to orienting the student to be, a responsible student of college, having them go through and understand where all the facilities are, what the services are, what the hours are. So really orienting them to IVC and college as a whole. So that's a little different, but yes, both of those classes we've had.
And that students' success task force, are they really wanting to charge students for something they're gonna make them do?
No.
That's just something I did not.
At this point, there's a report that's gone out and it's going through the process. It's been approved. The legislature is now looking at bills to mandate some of these things because a lot of these ideas cost money. So obviously, you can't force colleges to do X, Y, and Z. So there's some mandated costs that may be associated. So there's some regulation that's coming forward that would either require schools to assume certain tasks or encourage them to do so. So it's still in the works, but what came out of the task force was that the research shows that students who start out focused on orientation, assessment, and advising do much better going forward. So now the follow-up would be some kind of a plan to implement that throughout the college system. Any other follow-up on that? Okay. Number 22, expand daycare center to the public at large and staff with early childhood development students under faculty staff supervision. Any follow-up to that or questions? Steve?
Sorry.
Well, you're just on a roll.
It's the Eldon and Steve show.
I'm sorry. Back in the day, there was a lot of staff here that needed daycare, and it was so expensive. And they wondered why they couldn't get it, but all the students could get it. And it was so difficult. It was very expensive for daycare, and a lot of the staff needed it, and the students, I guess they get it somehow they're eligible for it. There's no eligibility, but the staff really needed it. Now back then that went forever, 20 years ago. So I just wondered why couldn't the staff get afforded or be allowed to bring their kids there, babies or whatever, and charge maybe the same rate they pay that daycare. It's a lot of money. It's huge.
And we'll respond to that, because that's a very that's questions that come up periodically. So, any other follow-up to that one? Yes, Eldon.
It could be limited to just the public at large, just to people who are going to school or other schools or work at us.
So, would you say that again? So
that anybody who's a teacher or a faculty or staff in another school could use this as daycare. Another school, other than just the public at large.
So limiting the public to
Say public,
education.
Just those people who are.
In education. Got it. Any other follow-up to that? Okay. Moving right along, 23. Increase class caps for online classes. Again, this is a negotiated item, but I went ahead and put it on there. So, any follow-up to this one? Sell the opportunity to have lunch with a distinguished administrator, staff, and faculty member. And I gotta tell you, it listed examples, and none of them were administrators.
not to go to the election
Or you tell the minister to go out for lunch.
day. Or it goes someplace else.
Any follow-up to that? Okay. You guys are good. All right. Oh, I like this one. Hold a fundraising telethon on campus via local TV, internet, Skype, or other means. Any ideas of the cause? So, any follow-up to this? Elden?
It'd have to be more entertaining, it'd have to be like a IBC Idol or something like that.
Okay. IBC Idol. We used to have a fashion show that was sponsored by the associate students for, actually it was for administrative professional days, which is today. And, you know, the bosses would take their administrative professional staff for lunch and there'd be a fashion show and all that. So I don't think it was a moneymaker for the students, but it was nice. So, oh, she put it. Any other follow-up to that one? Yes, Jean.
Yeah, one of the things we had a number of years ago was like a great teacher's lecture. And it wouldn't necessarily be on their subject they were teaching. It might be a hobby or an interest that they had. I don't even know. And the public came out to a lot of those because they were interested in what the person was going to be talking about. We advertised a little bit in the paper, and I don't think we charged people, but we could. I would pay to hear a lecture by Mike Swearengin in history.
So would I.
And
He was my
so you
teacher.
might want to think about setting something like that up, work on it this summer, and start advertising this fall. We have people in this room who would do a fantastic job on either their particular topic or hobby.
Great. Related to that, I know we've had in the past some faculty, retired now,
Yeah.
that did lecture series right across the street.
Right.
At Pioneers, and I went to a few of them. They're very, very interesting.
And we could let high schools know and so forth. So it's, yeah, we have wonderful teachers here.
Thank you, Jane. Any other follow-up to this one? Good. Okay. 26, increase efforts to contact IBC alumni and promote an endowment fund. Any follow-up to that? Since most of your alumni will be calling you.
Oh, well.
Gene?
I did a publication a number of years ago for the foundation called The Alumni Voice. And we presented people with a copy of that publication at the foundation dinner, which was always in the spring. I don't know now. But it was well received.
And if I recall, it had current employees in it, and it had their pictures on it,
Yeah,
and a little bit
picture.
biography on it.
And my students did the interviews. My journalism students
remember
did
that.
the interviews, yes.
I was there. Great. Any other follow-up on that? Okay. 27. Not sure what this is. Capital, it went away. Capital and other expenses. I'm assuming that's reducing capital and other expenses. There's an item in the budget that's under that one. So other than that, I'm not sure, but it was that way. So any other follow-up to that? Yes, Steve.
Well, I was just thinking that according to the student enrollment for next semester, in fact, maybe it's back down to where it was when I went to school here 25 years ago. But 25 years ago, we had one president, one vice president, a dean or two, a computer lab, and that was about it. We didn't have big fancy buildings like this. We didn't have $1 million space command, computer system rooms. why don't we go back to something like that? Why don't we just go back to, according to student enrollment, why don't we go back to those days when our expenditures were $1 billion? It didn't take 27 administrators to run a college, it didn't take 400 employees to run a college. And that's the whole problem right now. We got the same number of students as we had 25 years ago, but we got 1,000 times the administration, the employees, the resources, and everything else. Why do we need all that? That's what I'm saying. That's what that means with their community.
So balance staffing with student enrollment. I think that's the just balance.
Yeah, go back to that time. Good.
Any other follow-up? Okay, next. Consider hiring an in-house attorney. Outside legal fees are $150,000 more every year. Wow. Okay, that's what we'll look at. You follow up on that one. Next. Severely reduce consultant and lobbyist fees. Any follow-up on that? Good idea. Severely reduce dues to professional organizations and subscriptions to trade and educational publications. Any follow-up to this? Any alternative? Yes?
There's none of that stuff online, you don't have to pay.
Online publications or resources as opposed to subscription memberships? Any others with this? Okay, oh, this one's back. Starbucks on campus, good location, back of Juanito Salazar Low Gallery by the bus stop. That came up a little, not too long ago, but not here. Any other follow-up to that? Starbucks. Yes, Mike.
Just a quick question, if I understand, I think, isn't our new bus terminal a major hub now as well too? Isn't it like a major, like a transfer, like a hub or something?
It is, yes.
So that would make a lot of sense, because we're not necessarily just getting IBC students who use that terminal, we get a lot of people that are transferring buses, right?
Yeah. Not to mention some of us who love Starbucks.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other follow-up to that? Good. Okay. Summer break. This is one that came up probably because we have one summer session, our calendars changed, and now we have this year at least a significant break between the 1st of July and the starting of the fall semester. So this suggestion was the way we have a winter break, a spring break, having a summer break. That was the suggestion on that. So we can follow up to that, or thoughts. So that would mean a break where the campus is closed, so everybody's off on those, whatever amount of time it would be, whether it's 2 weeks or like the others. Okay, we'll look at that. Maximize utilization of all facilities. So I would take this like if you were offering summer courses or winter courses, to consolidate them into 1 or 2 buildings if it's a small one, and shut down the other buildings so that you save energy, especially during the summer. That's the one that comes to mind. Any other follow-up to that one? We've kind of talked about a few specific ideas here, but I would say continue to promote events on campus to generate revenues. you know, other campuses, COD has a swap meet once a month or once every other month. So that, I think that was the idea, is not just one thing, but just events on campus. Any other follow-up or ideas to this one? Yes, Alvin?
I think it goes hand in hand with the ad revenue. I would concentrate on that and try to keep the events where you attract people, you're not charging them, but attract the people, and that would attract the ads. Because you have a party, group fee.
I like Freedom Fest.
Yeah. Or you can even do something like do with, or bring their items in to be a parade.
Oh. Or like those coin, they buy old coins or whatever. Yeah. Very good. Any other follow-up to this one?
Another thing I would think is maybe get the libraries that are getting rid of their old books. We have a big library book sale or book giveaway.
Book giveaways. Excellent. Yes, Sue.
Yeah.
Jake.
There's also community garden, farmers market.
Farmers market.
Yeah.
Starting now, there's more growing movement for community gardens and farmers markets, so this would probably be a really, really good place to have a farmers market for the local growers. And, they have to give the school a little money for what they make. They already have one, they might as well have one here.
Yeah, they do them in the city of Imperial on a regular basis, and it does bring people here in terms of exposure, and it does help generate some revenue.
Yeah, there's one in El Centro now. I'm just
El
reading all my
Centro, too.
students' papers because we had a field trip about this.
Great, thank you, that was great. Rick?
I just, real quick comment was, these community events, swap meets, carnivals, farmers markets, great for raising revenue, I guess, but everyone needs to keep in mind that it takes resources to put that up and tear it down. So, we also, I'm just bringing it up because it's the truth. Someone's got to tear it down and put it up, so clean it up. Yeah.
What you don't want to do, obviously, is you don't want to have a really nice event and your expenses outweigh your revenue. So you have to make sure that you're making money on that so that you cover all those expenses. Yeah, I mean, that would be as cost-saving measures. Yes?
Well, I was thinking that the people who are coming here to do the events would be required to do their own cleanup, set up, take down, cleanup. They would have to sign some kind of contract about that, so they would have to do it. The people involved who are doing the events.
We'll put that down. Any other questions?
We are going to have a kids college this summer. We're going to pilot this community event. Efren Silva's putting it together. There'll be a track for grade school kids and a track for junior high in the month of July. 4 feet.
Any other follow-up? Yes?
Alden already mentioned about the IMAX theater,
Yes.
so to play movies and community can come to see it.
Yeah, the ideas that I've heard regarding the IMAX theater is you could have a variety of events. You could have adult events like a wine and cheese type of thing through Foundation, and you can have a family night kind of thing or a family weekend where you have clubs selling food or whatever, but there's a fee attached to it because the rental of those are quite expensive. So those are the ideas that were related to an IMAX theater type, because it is, one of a kind here in the valley. So, great. Lou?
How about offer soccer tournaments and softball tournaments to a certain age? And I know there's probably going to be a fee on the cleanup or on the rest, but include it just like we would on the farmers market. Like promote the tournaments.
To take place here at the college as a, yes, okay, good. Thank you. Mike?
I just want to go back to that farmer's market idea. I don't know what exactly what Patrick Polly teaches, but I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to grow our own food and produce and sell it at that market. You know, if you go to the grocery store, it's crazy to pay, you know, for an orange, I don't know what the cost is, but it's really outrageous. You can plant orange trees and everything else back there, and maybe.
Open season, we can make money on making money. That's good. Do we have another question over there? Steve?
I was just thinking that what Lou was saying about the tournaments. There's a guy who used to work here, Hassan. He used to hold a bunch of tennis tournaments, and they get a big turnout here. There's a lot of tennis players here in the valley, and they charged it to play the tournament. It's some revenue, and I think he's retired from doing that. He would hold them in the Southwest, but I think he hold them here. And there's still a bunch of tennis players here in the valley. And that was a big deal. It was about once every month we get a tournament, but it was during the season, they didn't stop during the summer. But
Very good. Excellent. Any others? Yes. Raquel?
What about the swimming pool? Can you just rent it out to residents and for parties and stuff like that?
Rent out pool. And again, any of those ideas, we have to make sure that the cost, that it offsets our costs and actually be a revenue generating activity. All right. Great, thank you. Any other follow-ups? This one has a lot. Okay. We're getting close. Encourage volunteerism. You know, over the years, if you notice on the board agenda, more and more and more, you begin to see individuals listed that are asking to volunteer on campus for a multitude of things. That seems to be increasing. It just seems that to me. So, yes, volunteerism, people who are retired, perhaps students who have a little extra time, or that they really enjoy a particular career and they want to get more experience in that. This is always very helpful. John.
No, I don't think the mic on the screen. We talked about it in finance, and one of the things, if you notice, that list is pretty extensive, and it's pretty time consuming to even investigate all that. So Eric was bringing it up, it's really ready just to gloss out like that. Even if we accept this, we're going to have champions for it, and it needs to come from the whole campus, not from a small group, because if you go through all that, that's a lot of time. And if you want to be successful, you have to put a lot of time into doing them. And so I think if we really go on any of that, it's going to be the whole campus, someone in the campus who will have a champion. It can't just be a small group of people who won't be successful.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that I said early on, as we go through and look at these things, you know, I think we have to be very careful. I mean, there's some great ideas here, and have a plan of implementation. So you may not be able to do everything at one time, but which ones do we want to take on, you know, to start off, and then add to it. And as John said, I think it's important that it has champions within the campus community to do that, because that's really what sustains it. Almost everything that has been sustained here of a normal ongoing activity has had a champion. Jean's writing and those books, you know, she champions that on a regular basis, and that's been an ongoing kind of thing. So it does take all of us to do these things. So we're clearly, this is only the beginning as I plan for this, but I would like to see these kinds of ideas really have us put some thought into it and work together to make some of these things happen, because I think it will do a couple things. A lot of the things that you've talked about will not only save money, but it will also bring some very positive exposure to the college, which is really, really important. We have been successful. We have a lot of support in the community, but it's not easy to sustain that long-term, especially during these difficult budget times. So it's important that we be out there in a positive way. These things can do that because you are involving in many of these activities the whole community. So at this point, we have another comment. Right on.
I didn't realize this is competition. You were mentioning the idea of promotion and getting our word out to the community, and I'm going to kind of take this slightly scenic route. I was at Vaughn's in Brawley on Monday night, and I ran into the bank manager from Union Bank in Brawley, and wanted to know what the campus was going to be doing this summer since we weren't offering summer school. And I corrected him that yes, we are, but I think we need to get the word out more and more and more because there were so many rumors that came down early that we were going to be closed. I think we need to do much more to promote what we are offering this summer and what we are looking at doing in the future to get the community behind us and to let them know that we are not a dying institution, that we plan on being here for a while.
Yes, thank you. We did. We responded to the rumors that IBC was closing July the 1st. It was picked up by the paper and the Pro, but that was a couple months ago. I think it was a couple months ago. But the idea here is posting on the website, putting it back on the portal, and perhaps even a listing of some of the courses. What we don't have resource-wise, we used to do a lot of advertising on the paper, but it's not free, and we're very limited. We've cut those budgets quite drastically. So, but there are other medias that we can use to get the word out about summer school. So, Jen.
I just wanted to mention along that line, thanks to Mike here, he approached me the other day with a great idea. We're going to send out a blast to students before finals week, we hope. Our intent was this blast would include things they need to know for fall. But I think maybe the first line of the blast should be, don't forget summer school. We're open for business and we will have, classes available to students who want to attend summer school. So that's going to go out in an email blast, on a flyer posted on the Facebook, on the portal, and hopefully we can get folks to post that in classrooms as well before students are out at the end of the semester. So thanks for that idea, Lisa. I think we'll include that.
You're welcome. I want somebody in my 7:30 class this summer.
I want to thank everyone. Time has run out, 5 o'clock, almost on the nose. But thank you very much. It is this kind of activity that really brings us together, to put our heads together and try working through this time. It's also, even in good times, a good idea to do some of these brainstorming things because we don't individually have all the answers. And it really takes a collective mind to do that. So again, I want to thank all of you who submitted these, and thank you for your responses, and have a great evening. Bye-bye.